coverage right here on Court TV. Tonight, we take a look at the facts and the law the judge will use to make his decision.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
On the docket tonight in Redwood City, California, convicted wife and unborn baby killer Scott Peterson wants a new trial. Does the defense burglar theory make any sense? Tonight, we take a look.
Lacey was alive and walking the dog the morning that she went missing. This took place after Scott left for the day. If Lacey's walking the dog, Scott is innocent.
Plus, in Los Angeles, California, Britney Spears not in control of her finances or her life, subject to a conservatorship controlled by her dad and others. Britney in court asking to be freed. Tonight's 13th juror question: do you believe the judge should free Britney? Go to our Facebook pages and tell us what you think. I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks so much for being here on Closing Arguments. And get ready, tomorrow is a huge day here on Court TV. All-day coverage, as it's really the conclusion of the trial of Derek Chauvin, the man who's been convicted of murdering George Floyd. Tomorrow, the judge has to make a decision, a huge decision. How much time does Derek Chauvin do? What is the proper punishment for the crime that he committed, the crime that he was convicted of? And the discretion is everything from probation up to 40 years. So there's a lot of space there. This isn't one of those cases where, oh, is it going to be 10 years or 11 years? Is it going to be 6 months or a year? No, no, no. 0 to 40. Where does it land? So in figuring all that out, the judge has to weigh a lot of the factors, right? The aggravating and mitigating factors. Mitigating factors, things about Derek Chauvin that make him a redeemable human being. Things that he's done in the past, the difference he has made in this world. And then there are the aggravating factors, which are all the reasons why he should do more time, the nature of the offense, everything else. We're going to focus in the next half hour on those aggravating factors because they are the most significant thing that the judge is going to consider. We're going to look at the facts and the law associated with them. So let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, who joins us from Minneapolis, Minnesota tonight, getting ready for tomorrow. All right, Julia, let's focus on these aggravating factors. We'll go through let's go through 4 of them. Let's begin with the first one. What's one of the aggravating factors here that the judge has to consider?
Well, prosecutors are going to be presenting evidence that Derek Chauvin abused his position of authority when he committed the crimes that he is convicted of, his role as a law enforcement officer. The state is going to argue that this was a power imbalance and that it made it difficult for the victim, in this case, George Floyd, to protect himself because of the fact that he had this position of being a law enforcement officer. The defense has argued that this type of issue is not one that is typically considered an aggravating factor under Minnesota law, so they will be presenting their own evidence and mitigators to try and get the judge to not pay attention to this in determining his sentence. But that abuse of authority is something that the judge has already ruled was proven by the state. So it is a factor that the state can argue at that sentencing tomorrow. Here's a listen to one of the pieces of evidence that they may use that comes from that incident on May 25th of 2020. Take a look.
Roll on the side.
No, stand where you got it.
Sorry about the delirium or whatever.
That's right, the ambulance coming.
Okay.
That's fine. Don't come over here. Don't come over here.
Up on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we need you to keep some distance. Yeah, you got an ambulance coming.
He's not responsive right now. He's not responsive right now. He's not responsive right now. He's not responsive right now, bro. No, bro, look at him. He's not responsive right now, bro. Bro, are you serious? He's going to just again with that on his neck, bro? Is he breathing right now? Check his pulse. Check his pulse. Check his pulse, Tom. Tom, check his pulse. Tom, check his pulse, bro.
this portion of the body camera footage of Derek Chauvin on top of George Floyd and hearing one of his fellow officers asking whether or not he should be turned over on his side. Derek Chauvin had authority in that situation, according to the prosecution. He was a senior officer, someone who had trained one of the officers that was there with him, and for that reason, this was an aggravating part of his crimes.
Okay, so I just want to be clear here, Julia. So are they arguing that this position of authority is that he is the senior officer at the scene, or just the fact that he's a police officer in a uniform?
It is both, because they are also saying that he abused the badge. He was the one who was able to keep the bystanders from coming to check George Floyd's pulse, to try and render aid. He had authority in that situation. So not just the fact that he was a senior officer, that he was someone that the other officers listened to in that situation, but also by nature of being an officer, he was able to exert authority over George Floyd to the point that he wasn't able to defend himself in that situation.
All right, let's bring in our think tank tonight and go through this first aggravating factor. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. Also in Atlanta, family law attorney and law professor Randy Kessler. And in Dallas, Texas, former DOJ senior attorney, former federal prosecutor, and federal executive clemency attorney Tammy Allison. Great to see everyone. All right, Eklund, this position of authority, it seems the Attorney General is arguing anytime a police officer commits a crime, it is an aggravated crime because this is an automatic aggravating factor, because they're on duty, they're officers, they have a badge, they have uniforms. So anytime a police officer commits a crime, they should be sentenced more than anyone else.
Yes, they have authority and they have a fiduciary duty to the people. So I believe that it is, it is correct that if you you don't have to sign, you're not drafted into becoming on the police force. So with that utterly being said, you take the responsibility, and more, with more privilege, with more power comes more responsibility, and they hold you to a higher standard, and that should be the goal.
Randy, do you agree? Do you think all police officers, they commit a crime while in uniform, should be subjected to an extra penalty above and beyond what a ordinary citizen would get?
I think it's a balance. Like Eklund said, you've got more responsibility, you've got more power, you do have more responsibility. But don't forget, there are immunity statutes. There are things that police officers can do because of their badge, because of their uniform. But along with that comes more responsibility. I think absolutely they have higher standards. The average person on the street wouldn't know the things that a police officer should know. They're expected to be in positions like that. They're expected to understand the situation more than you or I would, Vinny, if we were confronted with that. So I agree with Eklund.
Tammy, what are your thoughts here about this particular aggravating factor? How much weight do you think it will have or should have?
It should have a lot of weight, all the weight possible it should have. As Eklund stated, these are officers. They are not drafted here. This is someone that is a public servant. He is there to protect and serve, and he ignored the screams and the cries of the witnesses, the bystanders, even his own fellow officers, with his knee in George Floyd's neck for that 9 minutes and 29 seconds. He abused his position of authority, and the judge, as stated earlier, is considering an upward departure from the sentencing guidelines, as he should, given that abuse of power, coupled with the excessive force that Chauvin displayed here for the world to see.
All right, let's bring back in Julia Janae and talk about another one of the aggravating factors. Not just one. We're going to go through 4 of them here.